Hello televiewers and welcome to this other edition of The Brief, your bilingual program dedicated to the review of striking headlines in the papers in Cameroon. Today we are focusing on the English newspapers took keen interest in what is happening in Mwa subdivision, Donga Mountain division of the northwest region of the country, where suspected Fulanis are storming the communities and killing their brothers. We shall equally be talking about the Olembe Stadium or sports complex, which is still making headlines in the papers. As you all know, President Paul Biya authorized the borrowing of over 55 billion francs CFA for the completion of works at the sports complex. And on today's edition of the program, we are having as guest the vice or the special advisor to the president of MRC political party. Audrey Zatsa is around as usual to read the headlines for you in the French language. Bonjour Audrey.
Good morning to you, LASHA Kingsley. Bonjour à tous, fidèles téléspectateurs. Eh bien, c'est Débrief, votre émission entièrement consacrée à la revue de presse. Et aujourd'hui, que disent les journaux? Eh bien, on parle de la résurgence du coronavirus ou alors de la pandémie au coronavirus. On parle également des 200 du projet, en tout cas des 218 milliards du projet de construction du stade Olembe. On parle, n'est-ce pas, des révélations de ce qu'on a fait, voilà, de ce que le gouvernement a pu faire de ces 218 milliards de francs CFA. Et en parlant du coronavirus, alors que la pandémie, n'est-ce pas, continue de refaire surface partout dans le monde et même au Cameroun, eh bien, mutation par lequel nous débutons ce matin, on parle à sa une et titre, n'est-ce pas, rebond mortel d'après le journal, 105 décès en 2 mois et une explosion de taux d'occupation des lits. Le journal parle également de la deuxième vague de la pandémie, rappelle déjà les épisodes bouleversantes de 2020. L'information ou alors l'intégralité de cette information est à lire dans les pages 7 à 10. Toujours dans le même journal, à la page 6, on parle du lycée bilingue de Kribi, l'affaire du porte-monnaie magique. Ainsi, on continue toujours dans le même journal, les Lions indomptables, c'est dans ces entraîneurs qui ont gagné à la FIFA. Nous poursuivons avec Vision économique qui a sa une titre complexe sportif d'Olembe, révélation sur la gestion des 218 milliards de francs CFA du projet. D'après le journal, la question de l'utilisation des 163 milliards mobilisés pour la construction du complexe sportif d'Olembe préoccupe l'opinion publique camerounaise. Le débat a repris un nouvel élan avec la signature d'une nouvelle convention de près de 55 milliards pour l'achèvement des travaux de construction de cette infrastructure. On poursuit avec le quotidien qui, à sa une, parle de l'appel du gouvernement de la République à la mobilisation de la nation tout entière. D'après le journal, c'était hier, 1er mars 2021, au cours d'une conférence de presse conjointe, MINCOM, MINSanté et DGSN, un appel présent du MINCOM au nom du gouvernement de la République, et on rappelle, n'est-ce pas, des très hautes consignes du président de la République, son Excellence Paul Biya, qui disait au sens de responsabilité et au civisme des Camerounaises et Camerounais en vue du respect scrupuleux des mesures barrières prescrites pour protéger les populations contre le coronavirus. Le ministre de la Communication, René Emmanuel Sadi, a présenté les données statistiques plus que préoccupantes qui dénotent, n'est-ce pas, du relâchement général au sein de la population, du respect des mesures barrières prescrites. La rédaction du journal Le Quotidien, dans son édition spéciale, vous propose dans son intégralité, dans les 2 langues camerounaises, le gouvernement de la République, sensibilisation et mobilisation de l'opinion nationale, délivré par le ministre de la Communication, porte-parole du gouvernement, ce 1er mars 2021 à Yaoundé. Nous poursuivons avec le Messager et terminons licenciement abusif, la nouvelle affaire Sedov. D'après le journal, limogé de son poste de sélectionneur à l'issue de l'élimination en 18e de finale de la CAN 2019, la FIFA somme la FECAFOOT de verser 207 millions de francs CFA aux techniciens néerlandais. La suite de cette information est à lire dans la page 12 de Le Messager. Toujours dans le même journal, on parle de litige foncier, le maire d'Okala sur la sellette. Également dans ce journal, on parle d'insécurité routière, les radars semi-portatifs, de la sensibilisation. C'est en page 4. Voilà, madame, messieurs, pour les titres en langue française. Place au tabloïd en langue anglaise avec toi, LASHA Kingsley.
Thank you, Audrey Zatsa. We kickstart this morning with Emergence newspaper, Emergence, which took keen interest in the letter written to the U.S. Congress, and the paper writes that MP's letter to U.S. Congress, public opinion divided, as O.C. Joshua, one of the members of parliament who pinned his signature to the letter, is being lambasted by Cameroonians as well as his party officials. And Emergence also took interest in the latest decision of the World Football Governing Body FIFA to Fecafoot of Cameroon, ordering the Cameroon's Football Federation to pay former Indomitable Lions coach Clarence Seedorf a whopping sum of 350 million francs CFA for breach of contracts. Details of that story on page 5 of this edition of the Emergence newspaper. We continue with the Guardian Post. The Lone English Daily took interest in the violence or persistence in violence in Ngoa subdivision, Donga Mountain division of the northwest region of Cameroon. The Guardian Post, in one of its major headlines this morning, writes, former DO slaughtered, hundreds flee to Nigeria. According to the paper, the opinions or people are still to come to terms with what is actually happening in Ngoa subdivision as casualties of the persistent violence in Ngoa, Ndonga Mountain division of the northwest region of Cameroon, have continued to emerge. According to the paper, the situation, which has seen 9 men reportedly go on rampage, slaughtering locals and disfiguring others, has left hundreds crossing over into the neighboring Federal Republic of Nigeria. In the past 1 week, the subdivision has been the epicenter of attacks on Yamba natives by 9 men believed to be Fulanese. And the paper went further to say, during one of such attacks, retired civil administrator, we are talking about Femchak Manazis, who is the former DO, was slaughtered or reportedly slaughtered in his native Ntong village alongside one other elderly person. And this has left many wondering what is actually happening in Ngoa subdivision, Donga Mountain division of the northwest region of Cameroon. And CPD mayor arrested over alleged embezzlement in Yaoundé. A sitting mayor, according to the paper, in one of the councils in the country, is currently being held on accounts or accusations of having embezzled an unidentified or unspecified amount of public funds or public finance. Security officials have revealed to the Guardian Post newspaper. The municipal authority was remanded or reprimanded in custody after being interrogated for hours in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. We talked about Olembe Sports Complex in the Guardian Post newspaper. Olembe Sports Complex controversy. CBD and Central Committee member pushes for parliamentary inquiry into the funds that have been managed, or those who are managing the funds for the completion of the sports complex in Yaoundé. Recently, President Paul Biya authorized the borrowing of over 55 billion CFA francs for the completion of works at the sports complex in Yaoundé. We continue with the Chronicle Times. The Chronicle Times newspaper took interest in public opinion concerning O.C. Joshua's signing the letter to MPs or to the American Congress. Recently, the paper writes that after MP's letter to U.S. Congress, O.C. Joshua tells of Ninche and detractors. Ninche, who is the regional president of SDF for Littoral Region, has lambasted his comrade O.C. Joshua for penning his signature on the said letter that Cameroonians are divided over. You can get details or more details in this edition of the Chronicle Times newspaper. And we end with the media newspaper this time around, talking about fostering living together in diversity. Musonge Commission institutes National Multiculturalism Day. This day, which is supposed to be on the last Friday of every month, where Cameroonians are called upon to put on a traditional regalia. The decision was taken recently by the commission led by Peter Mafani Musonge, former Prime Minister and Senator, who is now heading the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission created by President Paul Biya to resolve the Anglophone crisis, as well as unite Cameroonian and the fostering of living together. We are back in the studio, televiewers, to continue with the discussion. As I told you earlier, we are receiving Sir MUTHAGA SYLVANUS, or otherwise known as Evangelist Tifu MUTHAGA SYLVANUS, who is the special advisor to Professor Maurice Kamto. You're welcome, sir.
Good morning, Mr. LASHA Kingsley, and good morning especially to your co-host, AUDREY ZATSA. Good morning to all the televiewers of my Media Prime TV. It's always an honor for me anytime you invite me to be on this singular platform, which is the leading English channel here in Cameroon, to speak on very important issues that are affecting our nation.
Okay, let's begin with the Chronicle Times newspaper, focusing on the recent outing of Honorable Ossie Joshua, Member of Parliament for Wuri Division. He has written or sent out a letters release to his critics and Jean-Michel Ninche, who happens to be the regional president for Littoral region. He penned his signature to the letter over 62 MPs wrote to the American Congress after they were not happy with the decision the congressmen took, blocking the repatriation of asylum seekers, some of whom the MPs are saying they are those sponsoring the war in the Northwest and Southwest regions.
Mr. LASHA Kingsley, I think I'm one of those people that have been observing the way the SDF has been playing politics of recent. You can recall that barely some few weeks to the municipal and parliamentary elections of 2020, the SDF said they were not going to participate in the twin elections if something wasn't done to resolve the Anglophone crisis in the Northwest and Southwest region. And finally, nothing was done, and the SDF went in for elections. Already, prior to the regional elections, the SDF had to boycott the elections because they thought that the war in the Northwest and Southwest region doesn't present any conducive environment for them to participate in those.
No, but they did that in line of their party ideology, that is federation. Going in for regional council elections, decentralization, which the SDF is not for decentralization, they are for federation. Whether 4 states, 10 states, 2 states, that's what the SDF stands for.
You know that. Anyway, let's go to what I was saying before we can talk on that next time. So yes. You find that the SDF through Joshua Ossie hasn't been taking any specific stand when it comes to the issues of the Anglophone crisis. So if the first national vice president of the Social Democratic Front, Honorable Joshua Ossie, tells us that he had to sign that communique, call it a communique, petitioning the intervention or the decision of the U.S. congressmen to call on the president
to use the Immigration Act.
Yes, use Immigration Act, maybe to repatriate some of the Anglophones in the United States. I want to ask myself this question: has the list already been published, and they went through the list and found that some of those guys who are on the list are those who are perpetrating the acts of terrorism, as they called it, in the Northwest and Southwest region? Because it will be biased that the U.S. just mentioned through their congressmen that they want to retain Cameroonians who are in the United States of America to prevent them from being repatriated to Cameroon, because they consider that the security situation in the Northwest and Southwest region is not better. The security situation of the country is not better because we know exactly what is happening in the northern regions, the Boko Haram, we know what is happening in the eastern region. And we know that many of those who are in the United States of America, they are citizens of the Northwest and Southwest region who left. Some of them went out because they needed to have a secured nation where they'll be there.
They went through the Mediterranean.
Some of them went
the forest, the Amazon forest.
The Amazon forest. Some of them
Mexico.
You know what it means, being there, and we are talking of people who are next door, Nigeria. They are unable to come back to Cameroon because there is still insecurity in Cameroon, and you expect that those who are in the United States, who went right to the United States, to be repatriated here. A week ago, we were talking on the boys who are in the disarmament camp. We saw the way they were agitating. The Prime Minister had to be dispatched have to dispatch some people to go to the northwest region.
No, it has already been alleged or reported by some newspapers that the CPDM barons are the one using those boys at this armament center in Bamenda and in Boya for their political gain.
I don't think so, because if it were for mere political games, the Prime Minister would not have sent people there with 3 million francs to go and calm down those boys.
The Prime Minister is not aware of the game.
No, the Prime Minister cannot be unaware of the game, because he is part of the CPDM, and I think everything that's happening within the CPDM. Anyway, I'm happy now that I'm happy because you said they are the CPDM people who are fueling chaos in the war, in that war going on in the northwest and southwest region.
No, because papers are reporting.
Yes, papers report like that because they have they have the tendency of always painting opposition leaders, especially those who are coming up strongly, as being the people who are fueling chaos in that war. But if today the truth is gradually coming out that the CPDM parliamentarians or the CPDM bigwigs who don't want the war in the northwest and southwest region to end, then I think that very soon there will be an end to the war. Now, I think that Joshua Osei telling us today that he had to sign that note that was sent to the U.S. congressmen because he thinks that there are boys in the U.S. who are fueling chaos in the northwest and southwest region. It's not a very solid argument. I expected that similar decision would have been taken by the members of parliament in Cameroon. They would have signed maybe a note sent to the President of the Republic long before now, pressurizing him to call for negotiation and ceasefire in the northwest and in the war going on in the northwest and southwest region. That was never done. And then if you look at the regular sitting, the sitting where these people, the members of parliament of the Cameroon National Assembly sat down to sign that note, it was not in the regular venue, which at the National Assembly. It was not done.
They have received the mandate of the people.
They received the mandate of people. They have a specific place which they need to sit there, unanimously take a decision. What they did was like those are in Makiza, that is a group of people who don't decide to go and sit somewhere.
To come in.
Okay, so these congressmen that have decided to halt the repatriation of 60 Cameroonian refugees in Cameroon, as they say, because of the socio-political situation of the country. Now, I want to know, is it like the U.S. is so much concerned about Cameroon, and since then they have not really done anything to curb this socio-political situation in the country?
Audrey, from the time of Franklin Roosevelt, Theodore Roosevelt, they said the U.S. have that prime role to save the majority of people that are perishing. Because if the U.S. cannot save those who are perishing, it cannot protect the rich, the few who are rich. So I think that the U.S. has a policy of making the world safe for democracy. Now, the U.S. of recent know that Cameroon is a quasi-democracy. It's not a real democracy, because we know exactly the socio-political upheavals of 2018. Many militants of the CRM dumped in prison. Some are still there. The U.S. knows that Cameroon is a quasi...
So why is it taking them so long to act? That's the question.
That's the question. I'm coming to answer that question. It has not taken the U.S. so long to act because Cameroon is a sovereign state. The U.S. need to have sufficient information about the war going on in the northwest and southwest region before raising up their voices.
With their satellite, everything, what other evidence do they need again?
The diplomacy is not just like we can think of. So the U.S. has gotten enough information. I think it's high time that they come in and intervene. You know, Trump, who just left, had his policy of making America great again. Trump's government did not favor the intervention of America in foreign affairs, in foreign lands. Trump was more of an egocentric kind of a person. You can imagine that during the time of Trump, he met about 10 billionaires, extra billionaires who were 3 times richer than they were. So Trump was just interested in making money for America rather than thinking of the suffering of people in other parts of the world.
So you were asking a few minutes ago if Joshua Osei actually had a list of those Cameroonians to make sure that the people are really...
the terrorists.
Exactly. But in the news, we're talking about Cameroonians who are in connection, who traveled in connection to the crisis in the restive regions, and they are seeking for asylum. So
Audrey, that's why I said that Joshua signing that form was emotional. As a member of parliament, we need to take decisions based on reasons rather than emotion.
But we have seen the OC Joshua singing in parliament.
There is a difference between singing in parliament and taking concrete decisions, because that is a concrete decision. That's a concrete decision. It's something that has to affect. It has an impact. Because if he want to convince us that document was signed in good faith, we would have asked him to present to us the list of those who were to be repatriated back in Cameroon, for us to really find out if he went through that list and saw that these guys who are on this list are
those
really...
who are seeking asylum are saying that they are running away from the DS government.
The U.S. Congress itself, that's what they were saying, no, that the people that are supposed to be repatriated are in connection to the Anglophone crisis.
The fact is this, Joshua said it, I just heard him this morning, that those guys that they are asking the U.S. to repatriate them here are those sponsoring the war in the Northwest and Southwest region. But the U.S. decision was to keep back asylum seekers who are running away from war in the Northwest and South region. People are running away from war.
You cannot be following the war. You say you are running. There are some people who went before the war actually, the conflict actually morphed into an armed conflict. We're talking the likes of Tapan, Ivo, Eric Tato, and the rest. Yes. Are you telling me they are amongst those to be repatriated?
That's why I said that. That's why I said that.
Yes, they went to study.
As a legal entity, the Cameroon member of parliament, those who signed, they would have asked the U.S. to present to them the list of those who are seeking asylum or the asylum seekers in the U.S. They go through the list and tell them these are the people who want them to be sent back here so that our Cameroon justice system can handle them. But they cannot even send them here because we know exactly how it has happened. Cameroon is not a state of law.
No, how can you say Cameroon is not a state of law? That's an understatement.
No, I have to be frank. There are we've seen people that are arrested.
You are moving freely on this.
No, let's I'm very responsible for what I'm saying. You know what happened to Aya Paul Abine? A magistrate of his rank was arrested, dumped in prison, released some 7 months later without any justification. I equally was arrested on this 28th of January 2019, dumped in prison after 23 months, just discharged and acquitted, and the government in place will tell you that it's a state of law. In a state of law, nobody can be arrested without thorough investigations and dumped in prison. And then there are many. I talk of the case of Jules Ometrankam, a guy that was arrested just because they suspected him that he was dealing in arms, and then dumped in prison, was discharged, acquitted after 10 years. You know, 10 years of somebody's life wasted in prison. You tell me we are living in a state of law? I don't think so.
Okay.
Monsieur Muthaga, parlons à présent du coronavirus, où le ministre de la Santé publique, le docteur Manauda Malachi, dans un communiqué le 22 février, annonçait, n'est-ce pas, un relâchement général des mesures barrières imposées par le gouvernement. Alors moi, j'ai envie de me poser la question, la faute à qui? Quand on sait que le Cameroun vient d'accueillir le CHAN 2020 et aussi on voit des concerts qui sont organisés ici et ailleurs, la faute à qui?
Les mariages et tout ce que l'on peut imaginer.
Audrey Zaza, je suis parmi les premières personnes qui décrient la façon dans laquelle la COVID-19 est gérée dans notre pays. On se souvient de l'initiative suivie Survivor Cameroun Initiative, qui a été créée par le MSC, fortement combattue par le régime en place. À l'heure actuelle que nous parlons, les comptes du MSC sont gelés. Et nous espérons à ce que les acteurs de la société civile, même les politiciens, aident le gouvernement en place à combattre la COVID-19. Comment pouvons-nous prétendre combattre une chose qui est très dangereuse comme la COVID-19 et de même moment en train d'exclure certaines personnes de ne pas entrer dans la lutte contre la COVID-19? C'est de l'hypocrisie. Je reviens de ce qui se passe au Cameroun. Nous avons...
If there are threats to the government, would they allow them? They may use...
Monsieur LASHA, c'est le temps. J'ai fait un document qui parle de 5 façons de voir, d'évaluer si votre président est un dictateur. Je vais vous dire, le régime de Biya a rempli tous ces critères de nous démontrer qu'ils sont un gouvernement de dictateurs. Bon, je reviens de ce que je dis. Si vous avez vu pendant la fête de Noël, nous avons vu les places publiques. Nous partons à Bonabéré. Vous avez vu comment on avait ouvert les places publiques aux gens de s'asseoir il fait la fête comme il veut. Mais on interdit les gens d'aller à l'église. J'ai vu les fêtes de fin d'année, les arbres de Noël, qu'on organisait pour les tout petits, a été carrément interdit. Vous savez, le gouvernement prend les mesures, je ne sais pas, sélectives, discriminatoires. Et c'est ce genre de mesures discriminatoires qui a causé...
La parade du 11 février aussi.
La parade du 11 février a été annulée. Mais vous voyez toujours dans les marchés, les gens marchent dans les marchés. Il n'y a pas. De deux, on ne peut pas prétendre donner les ordres aux Camerounais de ne pas sortir chez eux sans qu'on leur donne les mesures d'accompagnement. Okay. Nous avons compris comment ça se passe au Cameroun. La plupart des Camerounais sont pauvres. Dans d'autres pays, comme au Sénégal, nous avons vu comment ça s'est passé au Niger. Nous avons vu comment ça s'est passé au RDC. Le gouvernement a donné les mesures d'accompagnement, soit de donner l'eau gratuite, l'électricité, ou peut-être d'autres.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, we have to end here.
Merci beaucoup.
Merci, monsieur Mouthaga, d'avoir été avec nous, justement. Madame, messieurs, c'était des briefs pour vous. Prenons rendez-vous demain à la même heure, c'est-à-dire 10 h. Les programmes continuent sur My Media Prime Television.
Thank you for watching, televiewers. This day, the program was produced by Christian TEBONG, and for presentation, we've been AUDREY ZATSA and myself, LASHA. Bye-bye.